Yes, I'm Joe Phadima. It has got nothing to do with my vertically challenged height. Thank you very much. I'm going to tell you a story about, what everyone has been saying about the need for conservation organization and protected areas to start profiling their work, to start profiling what what they do. And I was hoping when I prepared my slides that Miles will be talking about, how what we can learn from car salesmen, because they don't talk about the engine, how you put this much oil, the ref count is this and that. They just simply tell you about the beautiful car, the luxury, and so forth and so on. And that's really what sells cars, and so on. The point of me of wanting to do it was so that I can tell you that I've done a little bit more of the opposite, to just illustrate what kind of people scientists are and how we undersell ourselves with talking about the details, more on the details rather than talking about this value. Okay, all right. Okay, I'm getting used to this. I get back. I'm going to talk about how, generally in the world of accounting for things, we talk about, in business, they talk about the 4 capitals. The build capital, they talk about the human capital, we talk about the social capital. I don't want to talk deeply about these things. They also do talk about actually the natural capital. But they put more emphasis, or rather, they in a world that puts more emphasis on the other capitals, with disregard to the capital that actually is the baseline of what keeps them thriving. Oh, okay, I'm going back. Oh, I should point there. Okay. All right. Now, what is this natural capital? We talk often or currently about the green infrastructure. We talk about the natural assets. Recently there's a lot of talk about the green economy. As I said, my interest really is on this natural capital, and what's important about what my talk is going to be about. It's necessarily what it offers for us, the mitigation, the protection, the value of this natural capital, which we call ecosystems, goods, and services. Now, just briefly for you, if I was not talking to scientists and managers, I was not going to be showing only this thing. I was going to be talking about showing something different. These are the habitat types. This comes from the work that we have done. One of our scientists, Debbie Jewett, I think she's here, who work a lot on, and Boyd, Dr. Boyd Escott, people who have worked on things like land cover maps and transformation maps and so forth and so on. But these are basically the habitat types that we have in the province, just to show you where these the natural capital are. Now, what we know, or what we knew when we were doing this study, was that there are quite a number of services or that we can get from natural capital. For instance, we know the value of just the Ukhahlamba Drakensberg Park to South Africa, as illustrated there. Yes, we know the value of things like things like forests and protected areas to providing medicinal plants. You can see here how communities benefit from that. Okay, I'll keep. Okay, it's this thing now. It's not me. Okay, it's this gadget, really. Okay. Did I jump? I think I did. I'm sorry. Did I jump too? Okay. Oh, thanks. One of the things, when Dr. Ali Kaka spoke about the many work that has been done on looking at the value of protected areas and natural capital, I saw there was a little or sort of a publication on pollinations. This is just to illustrate to you, and this was picked from the studies that have been done, the value of, for instance, things like a honeybee, which actually provides, or provides the value of its pollination, provides for it's in excess of about 4 billion per annum, and we know that in many countries, this has caused collapse to the crop production. Okay, I'll keep pointing at the wrong thing. We also know from, I don't know if you remember some years ago, 5 years or so ago, the storm damage that has caused a whole lot of things by the coast. The vegetation, the importance of the vegetation on the coastline to protect us from disasters such as these. Okay, I'll keep pointing. We know the value or the role of things like grasslands, our trees, in sequestering carbon and therefore buffering us against climate change. Okay, I'll point the wrong thing. I've stolen this thing from Nature Protects Nature Protects if she's protected. I stole this thing from a conference that I attended recently, because I think that it drives the message home. Basically, the more pristine the condition of the natural capital that we talk of, the many and varied services that society can derive from this natural capital. Just like it took I thought it was not going to show these bubbles here. I was going to show you how, if you look at this picture, without giving you these bubbles, that, if you look at just this picture, let's assume that there aren't these bubbles here. You look at this particular area, what you can get, tourism and scenic beauty. I think Miles spoke about how Kruger, for instance, is done for the country in terms of tourism. But it's not only Kruger. People know us to be the guys with the big fives and so on. Everyone else wants to go to Hluwe, for instance, for that. The forest, the potential, the value it provides in terms of carbon sequestration, carving, building, fuel wood, the water, what you can get from that, drinking and agriculture, the grassland, water catchment, and so on and so on. So this just shows you the picture of a ecosystem in a pristine condition. Oh, okay. And then this is just a depiction, again with the bubble, which I didn't want there, of a partly depleted natural capital, which, much as it is partly depleted, you still have some sort of value that you get from it, because there are those cows grazing over there and so on. And there's this one, a depleted natural capital, which really what it can offer for us is just parking. Now, the problem is that with this is that much also like what Dr. Ali said, we live in a world where we just keep developing and developing, putting a lot into development with the notion that this environment is infinite and we can keep developing and throwing back into this infinite environment, and as a result, this is what happens. Oh, God. On a global scale, this, I'm sure some of you have seen this, it just shows that this green area here is just an operating space, if you assume. And if leaving any red thing or any thread outside of this green area depicts us living outside of the safer living space. And if you look at here, the biodiversity loss, we've way gone past that because, as I said, because of, oh God. Oh God. Anyway, because of the kind of excessive exponential use and decline in ecosystems. Now, if you draw it back home and take an example of, for instance, KZN, what is this loss of natural capital? What has it cost us? Take a few reports of that. Flood cost 715 million reported in KZN in 2011. You have KZN storm damages hitting 4 million, and so forth and so on. And in fact, recently this weekend, in the Eastern Cape, we have a situation where the floods and storm damages have costed people. We're now talking about human lives, and the death toll is at 9 people who have died. Out of these, the way in which we continue, to deplete the natural capital that protects us. Now, what we've done in KZN Wildlife is that we've done a study back in 2011, and we've just completed a technical report on it. What we wanted to know, our interest was the key ecosystem services that this provide. And the value of these ecosystem services, because we wanted to profile the work that we're doing. We wanted to sell biodiversity and protected areas. We didn't want to do like what scientists do, that is concentrate on the details, but to talk about how politicians, how this can make, how this makes sense on politicians, how this makes sense to economics, people, business people, how this makes sense to an ordinary person on the ground. I'm not going to go detailed into it because I spoke a little. We've used land cover maps, transformation layers, vegetation maps. We've also looked at scenarios of how long does it take. If you take 10 years, how much of natural capital are we losing over that period? We have used the EcoFuture interactive learning model, which basically takes you into a participatory stakeholder engagement of valuing these systems. What does that mean? Or what are our results? And our results is that at provincial level, by the way, is that overall the value of ecosystem services calculated 149 billion. And you've seen already from Miles' presentation what this translates to in terms or in relation to things like GDP, a provincial finance budget. This is a slide or a pie, not a pie, man. What's this? A graph. This is a graph that was generated in 2010. So these numbers, this one, the KZN GDP were from 2010. Just look at, the ecosystems in relation to that. Now we've benchmarked our work to say, if you work around the ballpark, if you look at what has been done in eThekwini and what has been done also at the Cape Town, this table just shows you the ecosystem services, all the 12 habitat types that we've looked at, and the cost of each, which this value comes down to 149 billion. Now the question is, all this natural capital and the loss that we're experiencing are they secured? Are we losing them? As I said, we've looked at how if you make projections, you'd get to in the years to come. Now look at, I'm sure some of you also have seen this. that kind of transformation. So there's a transformation layer that shows you what happens. I'm not very good with colors. I think there's a green. Oh, this color here, the green, shows untransformed, and the blue, blue shows transformation. So as you click, you see the level. My God, okay. The level of transformation over time. And this table here just shows you, it's just a calculation of the projections that I spoke to over 10 years. That if you look from now till 2021, the value would have gone down by about 132, and add 10 more years to that, it would have gone by 89 billion. If you want to look at it in a different way, it means that the Treasury would have to find additional about 17 billion, which is the difference between these two, to be able to compensate for the loss of essential services that we get free, by the way, or society get free from the natural capital. And so I put this graph here to say, what is it that we need to do? Rehabilitation, okay? Rehabilitation is important. Prevent transformation of pristine habitats. As we see, we need to stop that graph. But also look at this point here. The contribution of protected areas into the services that we provide. And protected areas, remember, only about 8% of KZN land cover. So look, out of 8%, you get 56 billion. So if we were to expand protected areas, you'd get a lot more value with services that we get from the from protected areas. As I conclude, what does it mean? From 150, a ballpark. Ezemvelo is given a budget, as the spokesperson said, of about 512 million. If you calculate that, into rand and cents, for every 292 rand that we give, we offer back 1 rand. For every 292 rand invested, we give back 1 rand investment, which the return, yeah. The value could also be taken as amount that Treasury would have to fund should there be no ecosystem services provided. That's also the other way of looking at it. I'm not going to go back into that. This just calculates that if you were to replace the ecosystems that we get by building concrete structures like dams, which build up sediment, dams would have a short lifetime, which would not make much more, which not be efficient, rather than putting money into programs such as the Working for Water, which not only have a longer lifespan but are sustainable, as it contributes towards building economy, creating jobs, and so forth and so on. And in conclusion, in the next decade, important decisions are going to be taken in terms of large-scale infrastructure. We know about how the government is planning to spend about $1 trillion on building infrastructure. Now, the point is that if that building or if that infrastructure development does not consider the natural capital, that could all be pointless. Thank you.
A round of applause for Joe. Thanks a lot, Joe. To just recap quickly, I think for me is that we have grave decisions to make, and government has got grave decisions to make around development. And as people working in conservation, we can clearly show around issues such as risk mitigation when we talk about flood damage and all the damages that are caused by the climate change issues, you can clearly point out those to government to influence this change in ideology. You can also talk about opportunity cost in terms of the infrastructure spend. Maybe the challenge that I would like to pose, not to be answered now, is to say, you're going to scare a person and tell them, if you don't do this, you're going to have an environment that is basically useless, and they're going to be scared, good and proper, and they're going to ask you the next question: what are you going to do to reverse it? That's going to be the challenge. That's an answer maybe that we might need to start factoring into being able to answer. Thanks a lot, Joe.